I'm Danielle Barrett, the County Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Sciences and 4-H Youth Development at McCreary County Cooperative Extension Service. I'm so glad that you're joining me for our virtual Freezing Basics program. This program will provide an overview and practical application of the correct methods for freezing foods at home. The purpose for presenting this program is to teach research-based methods for preserving harvest from personal gardens or local farmers markets so you can enjoy safe food year-round. To demonstrate how you can gain more control over what is in your food by limiting or avoiding salt, sugar, or preservatives. To help you save money. To teach you how to prepare your own better tasting frozen foods using the most current research methods for home food preservation. To teach families how to continue family traditions of home food preservation, and to help you gain a sense of personal satisfaction of home food preservation. Our objectives for this session are for each of you to identify research methods of home food preservation, discuss and examine how freezing affects foods and identification of spoilage in frozen foods, identify foods that do and do not freeze well, examine and utilize the best containers, packaging, and labeling for freezing foods, practice safe thawing techniques for refrigerator, microwave, and cold water thawing, review procedures for power or equipment failure, refreezing thawed foods, and cooking frozen goods. Follow research-based methods for processing produce for freezing. How freezing affects food. Freezing preserves food for extended periods of time because it prevents the growth of microorganisms that cause both food spoilage and foodborne illness. Freezing does not kill bacteria. Freezing simply keeps bacteria from growing while food is frozen. Once thawed, any bacteria that may be present will resume growth. The freezing process does not destroy nutrients. After thawing, microbes can become active, multiplying under the right conditions, which can lead to foodborne illness. Handle thawed foods like any perishable product. Thorough cooking will kill most microorganisms. Freezing provides a safe and easy alternative to pressure canning low-acid foods since Clostridium botulinum does not grow and produce toxins at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Other parasites can be destroyed by sub-zero freezing temperatures. However, it is not recommended to rely on home freezing to destroy these parasites. Thorough cooking will destroy all parasites that may be present. Enzymes present in animal foods, fruits, and vegetables promote chemical reactions such as ripening. Freezing slows down enzyme activity but does not halt these reactions. Enzyme activity does not harm frozen meat or fish and is neutralized by the acids in frozen fruits. Most vegetables that freeze well are low acid and require a brief partial cooking, known as blanching, to inactivate enzymes and prevent deterioration. Rancid or off flavors can occur when fat, such as in meat, is exposed to air over a period of time. Rancidity can be controlled by using a wrapping material that does not permit air to reach the food. Remove as much air as possible from the container to reduce the food's contact with air. Food should be quick frozen within 2 hours and stored at 0 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Freeze foods immediately after they are packaged to retain vitamin content, natural color, flavor, and texture. To freeze foods quickly, freeze 3 to 5 pounds per cubic feet at a time. Cool all foods before packaging. Allow space between the packages for air circulation during freezing. If packages are placed in several layers, the packages in the middle may freeze too slowly to prevent peak quality. Slow freezing creates large disruptive ice crystals. During thawing, these crystals damage cell walls and dissolve emulsions. This causes meat to drip or lose its juiciness. It also causes softening or even mushiness of fruit and vegetables. Emulsions such as mayonnaise or cream will separate and appear curdled. Rapid freezing prevents undesired large ice crystals from forming throughout the product. Foods that don't freeze well. Certain foods become soft and mushy, waterlogged, tough or soggy when frozen, or they may separate. Some vegetables and some foods containing eggs, milk, or seasonings do not freeze well. Foods that do not freeze well. Vegetables: cabbage, celery, watercress, cucumbers, endive, lettuce, parsley, and radishes. Foods with egg or milk: shell eggs or cooked egg whites, meringue or icing made from egg whites, cream or custard fillings, milk sauces, sour cream. Not freeze well also includes some spices, herbs, and seasonings. When using seasoning, season lightly before freezing and add additional seasoning when reheating or serving. Spices and herbs may develop an off flavor, get strong or bitter. Salt tends to lose flavor and can increase the rancidity of foods that contain fat. Containers for freezing. When the surface of frozen food comes in contact with the air, freezer burn occurs due to the moisture loss. Freezer burn does not make food unsafe, but heavy freezer burn foods may have to be discarded due to the loss of quality. Cut freezer burn portions away either before or after cooking the food. Proper packaging helps maintain flavor, moisture content, and nutritive value in the dry environment of the freezer. The selection of containers depends on the type of food to be frozen, personal preference, and the types available for purchase. Containers specifically labeled designed for freezer storage are available in some areas. In general, freezer containers should be moisture and vapor resistant, durable and leak proof, strong and pliable, yet crack resistant at very low temperatures, resistant to oil, able to protect foods from absorption of unpleasant odors, easy to seal and label. To speed up freezing and retain the natural color, flavor, and texture of food, cool all foods and syrup before packaging. Follow directions for specific foods, determine which one needs added liquid. Pack food tightly in the container to leave as little air as possible. Most foods do require headspace between the packed food and the lid of the container to allow for expansion of the food as it freezes. A 1/2 to 1 1/2 inch headspace is generally acceptable. Foods that do not need headspace include loosely packed vegetables such as asparagus and broccoli, bony pieces of meat, tray packaged foods, and breads. It is safe to freeze meat or poultry directly in its supermarket wrapping. Since this type of wrap is permeable to air, overwrap these packages as you would any food for long-term storage using airtight heavy-duty foil, plastic wrap, or freezer paper, or place the package inside a plastic bag. Use low-temperature tape to seal plastic and aluminum foil containers tightly and to label the contents of the container. Use wax or soft lead pencil, a crayon, or a special waterproof marking ink on a low-temperature label or tape. Make sure on the labels to include the name of the product, the date it was frozen, weight or number of servings, and the type of pack. Freezer management and storage. Good freezer management is essential if you don't want to waste food. Keeping a record of all the foods in your freezer will help you use your freezer wisely, as well as help you meal plan. Write down everything you put or take out of the freezer. Use up all of last year's frozen produce before the next year's crop is ready to freeze. Color changes can occur in frozen foods. This does not mean that the food is unsafe. Meat usually changes from bright red at purchase to dark or pale brown depending on its variety. This change may be due to the lack of oxygen, freezer burn, or abnormally long storage. The bones of poultry and meat near bones can become dark. Bone darkening results when pigment seeps through the porous bones of young poultry into the surrounding tissues when the meat is frozen and thawed. The dulling of color in frozen vegetables and cooked foods is usually the result of excess drying due to improper or abnormally long storage. Freezing can keep most foods safe almost indefinitely. However, with time, all frozen foods will deteriorate in quality until they are unacceptable for use. Make sure you follow recommended storage times for optimal quality results. Thawing foods safely. There are 3 ways to safely thaw food. They are in the refrigerator, in cold, frequently changed water, or in the microwave. Do not thaw foods at room temperature or outside. I'm going to repeat that again because it's very important. Do not thaw foods at room temperature or outside. These methods may allow the outside of the food to get warm while the inside is still frozen, allowing bacteria to grow, resulting in food that can cause a foodborne illness. So, thawing food in the refrigerator. This is a preferred method of thawing, but it's also the slowest method. Small food items may defrost overnight in the fridge, but most food does require a day or 2. For large foods, such as a turkey, allow 1 day for each 5 pounds of weight. Just make sure you are planning ahead, and this method will work. Cold water thawing. This method is faster than the fridge, but it still does require more attention. Food should be placed in a leak-proof plastic bag and immersed in cold water. Make sure the bag does not leak, as bacteria from the air or surrounding environment could be introduced into the food. Food tissues absorb water that would result in watery, less than high-quality foods. Make sure that you change the water frequently, at least every 30 minutes. After thawing, refrigerate the food until it is ready to be used or cook it immediately. thawing foods in the microwave. Use this method to defrost food only when you plan to cook it immediately or for thawing ready-to-eat fruit immediately before serving. Some areas of the food may become warm and begin to cook during microwaving. Microwave thawing does not destroy bacteria, so the food still needs to be thoroughly cooked. Power or equipment failure. If power for your freezer is interrupted or if the unit is not operating normally, do not open the freezer door. Food in a loaded freezer will usually stay frozen for 2 days, even in the summertime. If repairs cannot be made or service restored within 1 to 2 days, use dry ice to keep the frozen food frozen. Discard any food that has been warmer than 40 degrees for more than 2 hours. Discard any food that has been contaminated by meat juices. Also, you'll want to dispose of soft or melted ice cream due to the loss of quality. If it is freezing outside or there is snow in your yard, you may be tempted to keep frozen food outside until power is restored. However, foods stored outside are exposed to the sun, environmental contaminations, and roaming animals and birds. It is best to keep your food indoors. Accidentally frozen cans may not be safe to consume. If the seams have rusted or burst, throw the cans out immediately. If the cans are merely swollen and you are sure the swelling was caused by freezing, the cans may still be usable. Allow the unopened can to thaw in the refrigerator. Do not taste the contents of the can upon opening. If the contents of the can look or smell abnormal, throw the can away. If the contents look or smell normal, thoroughly cook by boiling 10 to 20 minutes immediately after opening. Refreezing thawed foods. You may safely refreeze frozen foods that have been thawed if they still contain ice crystals or if they are still cold and have not been in the refrigerator more than 1 day. In general, if a food is safe to eat, it is safe to refreeze. Partial thawing and refreezing will lower the quality of fruits and vegetables. Meats may be cooked and then froze again with little loss of quality. Use refrozen foods as soon as possible to maintain an acceptable quality. Cooking frozen foods. Raw or cooked meat, poultry, or casseroles can be cooked or reheated from the frozen state. It will take approximately 1.5 times the cooking time. Discard any wrapping or absorbent paper from meat or poultry. When cooking whole poultry, remove the giblet pack from the cavity as soon as it becomes loose. Make sure you cook those giblets separately. Freezing is one of the easiest, most convenient, and least time-consuming methods of food preservation. By following proper procedures for freezing and thawing foods, you can enjoy high-quality, nutritious foods straight from the freezer. Most fruits freeze well. Fruits are best frozen as soon as they are harvested, when they are firm, ripe, and at the peak of their quality. To ensure pleasing color, texture, flavor, and maximum nutritional value, select varieties suitable for freezing. Use strict sanitary procedures and follow these guidelines. Gather all needed ingredients, equipment, and supplies. Wash small quantities at a time to avoid bruising delicate fruit. Immediately drain thoroughly to avoid loss of water-soluble nutrients, flavor, and waterlogged fruit. Cut larger fruits into smaller pieces. Less than perfect fruit can be crushed or pureed. It is best to prepare enough fruit for only a few containers at a time, around 2 to 3 quarts. Approximate yields of frozen fruit from fresh are listed in a publication available. Yield will vary with size, quality, maturity, variety, trim, and cut size of the fruit. The method used to pack fruit depends on how you plan to use it. Fruits packed in syrup are generally best for uncooked dessert use, while those packed in dried sugar or unsweetened are best for more cooking purposes because there is less liquid. For syrup-packed fruits, to make syrup, dissolve sugar in lukewarm water and mix until the solution is clear. Chill the syrup before using. 40% syrup is recommended for most fruits. To prevent masking of flavor, mild flavored fruits may require a lighter syrup. Heavier syrups may be needed for very sour fruits. This is also in the publication, and there is a chart available to help you decide what percent syrup to make. If you're going to sugar pack your fruit, cut the fruit into a bowl or shallow pan. Sprinkle the quantity of sugar needed. Again, this is in the publication. Mix gently until the juice is drawn and the sugar is dissolved. Pack the fruit into a container, seal, label, and freeze. Sliced peaches, strawberries, figs, de-seeded grapes, plums, and cherry will produce enough syrup to cover the fruit if the fruit is layered with syrup and allowed to stand for 15 minutes. Some small whole fruits may be coated with sugar and immediately frozen. So dry pack freezing. The dry pack is good for small whole fruits such as berries. Simply pack the fruit into a container, seal, label, and freeze. To make the frozen fruit easier to remove from the container, you can use a tray pack. Spread a single layer of washed fruit on a shallow tray and freeze. When the fruit is frozen, promptly package and return to the freezer. Packing fruit, unsweetened packed with liquid. Unsweetened fruit may be packed in water. Unsweetened juice or packed in syrup. Fruits packaged without sugar do not have the plump texture and good color of those packaged with sugar. Raspberries, blueberries, steamed apples, gooseberries, currants, cranberries, rhubarb, and figs freeze well without sugar. Packed in syrup instead of water or juice is often used for peaches or strawberry because they retain their texture better if frozen in the packed-in syrup. Preventing discoloration. Peaches, apples, pears, and apricots darken during freezing. They may also lose their flavor after thawing. Discoloration can be prevented or lessened with an anti-darkening treatment. Use the amount and type specific in the direction for freezing specific fruits because not all fruits are protected equally by all these treatments. Ascorbic acid, commonly referred to as vitamin C, is the most effective treatment in preserving the natural color and flavor of fruits for freezing, and it adds nutritive value. The powdered form is available at some pharmacies or during canning season. Ascorbic acid tablets may be easier to find and less expensive, but they are more difficult to dissolve. Crush the tablets into a fine powder before use. Fillers in the tablet may make the syrup cloudy, but that is not harmful. Make only as much ascorbic acid solution as needed. 1/2 teaspoon of powdered ascorbic acid equals 15 milligrams. Commercial ascorbic acid mixtures are available. Make sure you follow the manufacturer's directions when using these. In a syrup pack, add ascorbic acid to the cold syrup before using. Stir gently so air is not incorporated into the sugar syrup. All syrups should be kept in the fridge until used. In a sugar pack, dissolve the ascorbic acid in 2 to 3 tablespoons of cold water and sprinkle the mixture over the fruit before adding the sugar. In an unsweetened pack, sprinkle the dissolved ascorbic acid over the fruit and mix thoroughly just before packing. If fruit is packed in water, dissolve the ascorbic acid in water. If fruit is packed in fruit juices, add the ascorbic acid directly to the juice and stir only enough to dissolve. If crushed fruits and fruit purees, add the ascorbic acid to the fruit preparation and mix gently. You can also use citric acid or lemon juice. Although it is not as effective as ascorbic acid, citric acid or lemon juice is sometimes used in place. When used in large quantities, they can mask the natural fruit flavors and make the fruits too sour. Steaming works best for fruits that will be cooked before serving. Steam fruits just until hot. Freezing vegetables. Most vegetables freeze very well. Fresh, tender vegetables right from the garden are best for freezing. Although the products easily frozen are some that are most difficult to can, such as corn, peas, and lima beans. Tomatoes lose their firm texture and become soft and flabby, as do salad vegetables such as celery, lettuce, green onions, and radishes. Tomato juice can be frozen, but it's so easy to can that you probably would not want to use that premium freezer space for it. Vegetables high in starch content, such as potatoes and mature lima beans, do not freeze well. Over-mature vegetables do not freeze well either. So, freezing vegetables. Washing is the first step in preparing most vegetables for freezing. Wash them thoroughly in several changes of cold water. Lift them out of the water because grit settles to the bottom. Unless they are to be cut into pieces of uniform size, sort vegetables according to the size for heating and packaging purposes. Broccoli and cauliflower may be soaked for 30 minutes in 1 tablespoon of salt per gallon of water to remove any insects before blanching. Vegetables for freezing must be blanched before packaging. With the exception of bell peppers, vegetables maintain a better quality in frozen storage if they are heated before packaging. So remember, all vegetables except bell peppers need to be blanched. Blanching slows or stops the action of enzymes that help vegetables grow and mature. After maturity, enzymes cause loss of flavor and color. If vegetables are not heated enough, the enzyme continues to be active during frozen storage. The vegetables may develop off flavors, discoloration, or tough, and may even lose nutritional value. Heating also wilts or softens vegetables and makes them easier to pack. Heating times will vary based on the vegetable and the size. Make sure you are following the chart in the publication I keep referencing. Over-blanching causes loss of flavor, color, and nutrients. Under-blanching stimulates enzyme activity and is actually worse than no blanching at all. The most satisfactory way to blanch most vegetables is in boiling water. Use a blancher, which has a blanching basket and cover, or fit a wire basket into a large kettle and add a cover. Using at least 1 gallon of boiling water for each pound of prepared vegetables, follow the directions given for the vegetable that you are freezing. Broccoli, pumpkin, sweet potatoes, and winter squash can be either boiled or steamed. To steam, use a kettle with a tight lid and rack that hold the steaming basket at least 3 inches above the bottom of the kettle. Put 1 to 2 inches of water in the kettle and bring to a boil. Put the vegetables in the basket in a single layer so that the steam reaches all parts quickly. Cover the kettle and keep the heat high. Follow directions given for the vegetable that you are freezing. Steam blanching takes about 1.5 times longer than water blanching. After vegetables are heated, they should be cooled quickly and thoroughly to stop cooking. Plunge the basket of vegetables immediately into a large quantity of water. Make sure the water is at least 60 degrees or below. Change the water frequently. Use cold running water or ice water. If ice is used, you will need about 1 pound of ice for each pound of vegetables. It will take as long to cool the food as it does to heat it. When the vegetables are cool, remove them from water and drain them thoroughly. The number of pints of frozen vegetables from a given quantity of fresh vegetables will depend on the quality, condition, maturity, variety, trim, and cut size. Yields are given in the freezing vegetable publication are only approximate. Packaging vegetables in a suitable freezer container. Vegetables that package loosely, such as asparagus, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, corn on the cob, and hot peppers, need no headspace. Tomato juice and tomato sections need 1 inch of headspace. All other vegetables need 1/2 head inch space. Headspace for frozen vegetables. Headspace for frozen vegetables. Vegetables that are packed loosely, such as asparagus, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, corn on the cob, and hot peppers, need no headspace. Tomato juice and tomato sections need 1 inch headspace. All other vegetables need 1/2 inch headspace. Seal, label, and freeze immediately. Application. After going through the presentation, I want to walk you through once again the basic steps of freezing. I've had an abundance of greens, so I decided to freeze a bunch so they would not go bad. Here I have kale, mustard greens, and Swiss chard. I use a colander to wash small batches at a time to make sure that all the greens are clean. Then I blanch my greens based on the publication for about 2 minutes. I immediately took my greens out of their blanching water and placed them in the sink with cold running ice water to stop the cooking process. After the greens were cool, I drained them to make sure I could get out as much water as possible. Then I packaged my greens into plastic freezer bags with what was stored, greens, and the date. I made sure to leave 1/2 inch headspace. And then I put them in the freezer to be able to enjoy them later on in the season or this winter. If you have any questions about food preservation, I am happy to help. We have plenty of publications that I can provide you, or I'm available to answer just a quick question if that's all you need. Thanks for tuning in.